Welcome to Ryan's Revival. Let me ask you something. How many times in your life have you felt like the weight of the world was pressing down on your chest? Like no matter what you do, no matter how hard you push, life has already decided you're not enough? Maybe you're sitting in your room at night, scrolling through your phone, wondering why everyone else seems to have it figured out, while you're stuck with the same fears, the same doubts, the same pain. And deep down, there's this voice inside you that whispers, "You're weak. You'll never make it." That voice isn't a stranger. It's with you every single day. Sometimes it's quiet, and sometimes it's screaming. It shows up when you're about to try something new, when you're on the edge of stepping out of your comfort zone. And it tells you to stay where you are, because failure is waiting. But here's the truth. That voice is a liar. And no one understood that better than David Goggins, the man behind the book Can't Hurt Me. David wasn't born tough. He wasn't born strong. He was broken, just like so many of us feel broken right now. His childhood was filled with pain, abuse, and endless fear. Imagine being a little kid, living in a world where home wasn't safe, where every single day was about survival. He could have stayed trapped in that darkness forever, but he didn't. Instead, he made a choice that would transform him from a scared, insecure boy into one of the toughest men on the planet. And that's why you're here. Because whether you realize it or not, you've got the same choice in front of you. The choice to keep living small, or the choice to fight back. But let's be real. This isn't some fairy tale where everything magically changes overnight. No, this is war. A war with the toughest enemy you'll ever face, yourself. Think about it. How many times have you set a goal, lose weight, study harder, start a business, change your life, and quit halfway? You didn't quit because you couldn't do it. You quit because that voice convinced you that you couldn't handle the pain. And David Goggins knew that feeling better than anyone. He failed again and again. He was overweight, depressed, and full of excuses. But one day, standing in front of the mirror, he saw the truth. He saw the man he had become, and he hated it. That moment was his turning point. Here's the part that stings. Most people never reach that point. They live their whole lives avoiding pain, avoiding struggle, and they die without ever knowing who they really are. But Goggins, he ran straight into the fire. He pushed himself past every limit. He signed up for Navy SEAL training, one of the hardest programs on earth. And even when his body was broken, even when the pain was unbearable, he refused to quit. Because he realized something powerful. The body can take almost anything. It's the mind that needs training. Now pause for a second and think. What's holding you back? What's the story you keep telling yourself about why you can't? I'm not smart enough. I'm not strong enough. I didn't grow up in the right family. I don't have enough time. Sound familiar? That's the same script Goggins had to rewrite. He had every excuse in the book, and yet he chose to silence them. He built what he called a calloused mind. Just like hands get tougher when you work hard, your mind gets tougher every time you push through pain instead of running from it. But let me warn you, this story isn't comfortable. It's not meant to make you feel safe. It's meant to challenge you, to shake you awake. Because life isn't about staying comfortable. Life is about finding out what you're truly capable of, and you'll never know that until you go through the fire. The question is, are you willing to face that fire, or will you let the voice of doubt keep running your life? David's journey teaches us that pain is the greatest teacher. Every time he failed, every time he broke, every time he wanted to quit, he discovered something new about himself. He found out that the human spirit is almost unbreakable, but only if you're willing to fight for it. And this is where the suspense begins. Because the man who once hated his own reflection in the mirror would go on to do things most people can't even imagine. Ultra marathons, pull-up world records, facing fear, hardship, and agony head-on, not because he was fearless, but because he knew that fear was just another wall to break through. And if he could do it, so can you. That's the whole point of this story. Goggins didn't have some secret gift. He wasn't born with superhuman strength. He created it, one painful step at a time. And that's exactly what you need to do. Stop waiting for the perfect moment. Stop waiting for life to get easier, and start walking into the pain. Because it's only when you step into the pain that you'll find your real power. So as we close this first part of the journey, I want you to remember one thing. The enemy is not outside of you. The enemy is the voice in your head telling you to quit. And if you can learn to fight that voice, if you can learn to control your mind, then nothing, no failure, no setback, no pain can hurt you. Because you'll finally understand what David Goggins discovered. You can't hurt me. This is just the beginning. In the next part, we're going deeper into how Goggins built his unstoppable mindset and how you can do the same. Until then, this is Ryan's Revival, reminding you, the war is inside, and it's time to win it. If you made it through part 1, then you already know that the real battle isn't out there in the world. It's inside your own head. But now the question becomes, how do you actually win that battle? Because inspiration alone won't save you. Motivation fades, comfort comes back, and the voice of doubt never really leaves. David Goggins knew this better than anyone, and that's why he had to create a system to keep fighting, no matter how badly he wanted to quit. Picture this, a young man, overweight, stuck in a dead-end job spraying for cockroaches at night. That was Goggins before the Navy SEALs, before the fame, before the books. He'd come home drenched in chemicals, reeking of poison, and collapse on the couch with a milkshake in one hand and the television remote in the other. This was his life. And deep down, he hated it. But what's worse than hating your life is believing you're powerless to change it. That belief. It traps millions of people. Maybe it's the same belief you've been carrying, thinking you're stuck, that your circumstances define you. But one night, everything shifted. He turned on the television and saw a Navy SEAL documentary. These men were everything he wasn't: disciplined, strong, unbreakable. And something inside him snapped. He realized that if he kept going the way he was going, he'd die without ever knowing his potential. That's when he made a decision. A crazy, almost impossible decision to become a Navy SEAL. The problem? He was nearly 300 pounds, and the recruiters told him flat out, lose the weight or don't come back. That's when Goggins created something powerful, what he called the accountability mirror. Every single day, he stood in front of his bathroom mirror and forced himself to face the truth. He wrote down his weaknesses on sticky notes: fat, lazy, undisciplined, and he stuck them to the mirror where he couldn't escape them. And instead of running from those truths, he attacked them, one by one. He started waking up earlier. He started running even when his lungs burned. He started studying even when he was exhausted. Little by little, he was tearing down the old version of himself and building someone new. And here's where most people get it wrong. They wait until they feel ready. They wait until motivation strikes. But Goggins knew that feelings are liars. If you wait until you feel like it, you'll never start. The secret is action first, feelings later. That's how discipline is built. That's how a weak, broken man began to transform himself into a warrior. But let's be real. This wasn't a Hollywood montage. It was messy. It was brutal. There were nights he cried, nights he wanted to give up, nights his body screamed at him to stop. But every time that voice showed up, he had a weapon ready. He called it the 40% rule. And it's simple, but deadly effective. When your mind tells you you're done, you're really only at 40% of what you're capable of. Think about that. Every time you've quit, every time you've said, "I can't," you still had more than half your tank left. Now imagine what your life would look like if you started living that way. If you stopped listening to the voice that says enough and pushed for just a little more. That's how growth happens. That's how Goggins built his calloused mind. Not through comfort, not through luck, but through relentless repetition of pain and persistence. And here's the suspense, because this journey was only beginning. Losing the weight was just the entry ticket. Once he dropped the pounds, once he forced his way through the door, he had to survive the hell that came next. Navy SEAL training, a program designed to break the strongest men alive. And yet this former exterminator, this once overweight kid, was about to step into the furnace. The furnace that would either destroy him or remake him completely. In the next part, we'll dive into the chaos, the suffering, and the unthinkable endurance that forged David Goggins into something the world had never seen before. Until then, remember this: the voice in your head will lie to you every single day, but your actions, they don't lie. Start acting like the person you want to become, and your life will follow. This is Ryan's Revival, and the journey has only just begun. If part 2 showed us the birth of discipline, then part 3 is where we see that discipline tested in the most brutal way imaginable. Navy SEAL training, also known as BUD-S, isn't just difficult. It's designed to break people. The instructors don't want everyone to pass. In fact, their job is to make sure only the very few, the absolute toughest, survive. And David Goggins, the man who once weighed almost 300 pounds, stepped into this nightmare furnace knowing Hell Week. Just the name tells you everything. It's 6 days of pure torment, no sleep, freezing water, endless running, constant push-ups and pull-ups, carrying boats and logs with a team that's just as broken as you are. Most men quit within hours. By the second or third day, the human body starts shutting down. Hypothermia sets in, muscles tear, minds collapse. But Goggins, he refused to quit. Not because he didn't feel pain, but because he did. And he learned something powerful. Pain is universal. But so, here's the crazy part. Goggins didn't just go through Hell Week once. He went through it 3 times. 3 separate weeks of torture, of near-death exhaustion, of pushing a body that was already destroyed. Most people can't even imagine surviving one, but he endured 3. And every time, instead of breaking him, it carved him into something new, something stronger, something almost unstoppable. But the journey didn't end there. Because once you pass Hell Week, the suffering doesn't stop. It only evolves. Goggins went from one impossible task to another, and still, he stayed. Why? Because by then he understood something most people never learn. Suffering is the pathway to growth. It wasn't about becoming a Navy SEAL anymore. It was about discovering the limits of the human spirit and then destroying them. Now let's pause and turn the lens back on you. What's your hell week? Maybe it's not freezing water or screaming instructors, but maybe it's a dead-end job that drains your soul. Maybe it's a relationship that's falling apart. Maybe it's the dream you keep putting off because fear tells you it's impossible. That's your hell week. And the truth is, most people quit before they even start. They ring the bell and walk away because pain is too much. But if you learn what Goggins learned, that pain is not He discovered what he called the cookie jar. Sounds simple, even silly, but it's one of the most powerful tools you can use. Here's how it works. Every time you survive something hard, every time you accomplish something you once thought impossible, you store it in your cookie jar. Then, when life beats you down again, when your mind screams that you can't go any further, you reach into that cookie jar and remind yourself of what you've already survived. Those past victories become fuel for the next battle. Think about that for a moment. How many times have you forgotten your own strength? How many times have you gone through something hard, survived it, and then acted like it never happened? The cookie jar is about remembering that you're stronger than you think, remembering that you've already walked through fire and you can do it again. But even with the cookie jar, even with the discipline and the mindset, Goggins still faced failure. He still faced setbacks. He still broke down. And that's the point. This isn't about becoming superhuman. It's about being human and refusing to let your humanity stop you. It's about controlling your mind so completely that even when you fail, you don't quit. Because quitting is the only thing that guarantees defeat. As we close part 3, let this sink in. Life will test you. It will push you to your limits. It will drown you, burn you, crush you. And in those moments, you'll want to quit. But inside of you, there's a power you've barely touched. A power that comes alive only when you refuse to give up. That's what David Goggins found in Hell Week, and it's what you can find in your own life if you're willing to suffer for it. The suspense only grows from here because the story isn't over. Goggins' body was broken again and again, but instead of giving up, he went even further into ultra marathons, world records, and a life dedicated to pushing human limits. That's where we're heading next. So stay with me. This is Ryan's Revival, and the fire has only just begun. From the furnace of Hell Week, Goggins didn't slow down. He had proven he could survive what broke most men, but now came an even bigger question. What happens when you take that same mindset and aim it at challenges no one thought were humanly possible? This is where his story becomes almost unbelievable, where he transforms from a Navy SEAL into a living symbol of human endurance. After the SEALs, Goggins faced a different kind of enemy, his own body. Years of training, brutal punishment, and relentless pushing had left him with broken bones, torn muscles, and injuries that would have ended the careers of most athletes. But instead of retreating, he set his sights on a new battlefield: ultra-endurance races. 100-mile runs, back-to-back marathons, challenges so insane that even professional athletes struggled to finish them. And here was David Goggins, a man who had every reason to quit, stepping up to prove once again that the limits we believe in are nothing but lies. His first ultramarathon was a disaster. He entered with little preparation, barely knowing what he was walking into. By the halfway mark, his body was shutting down. His feet were bleeding. His legs felt like stone, and every fiber of his being screamed at him to stop. Most people would have collapsed and called it a day. But Goggins kept moving. He pushed himself through pain that defies description, running on broken feet, using sheer willpower to drag himself to the finish line. It wasn't pretty. It wasn't heroic in the Hollywood sense. It was raw, ugly survival. And it became the defining moment of his life. Why did he do it? Not for medals, not for fame. He did it because every finish line was another chance to prove that limits are illusions. He discovered that when you push past the edge of what you think is possible, a whole new world opens up. And that's the secret. Your potential lives on the other side of suffering. Most people never see it because they quit too early. But Goggins lived there. He made suffering his home. That's when he started chasing records. One of the most famous was the pull-up challenge. The goal? Break the world record for most pull-ups in 24 hours. Now think about this. Most people can't even do 10. He aimed for over 4,000, and the first time, he failed. His hands tore open, his body shut down, and he fell short. But here's what separates him from the rest. He came back. He tried again, and again, until finally, he shattered the record. Not because he was stronger, but because he refused to let failure have the last word. And this is the core message of his life. Failure isn't final. Pain isn't permanent. Weakness isn't destiny. They are stepping stones, and the only way to use them is to keep moving. Every time you fall, you get back up. Every time you break, you rebuild stronger. That's the Goggins way. That's the warrior mindset. But let's bring this home, because this isn't just about one man's story. This is about you. Maybe you're not running ultramarathons. Maybe you're not aiming for world records. But you are facing your own battles. Doubts, fears, failures, struggles no one else sees. And here's the truth. You already have everything you need to win. You don't need a perfect past. You don't need a special talent. You need the courage to face pain head on, the discipline to keep going when you want to stop, and the faith that on the other side of suffering is the person you've always wanted to become. Life is always going to test you. Some days, it will feel like you're carrying the weight of the world. Some days, it will feel like everything is against you. But when those moments come, remember what Goggins discovered. You are far stronger than you think. You are capable of so much more than you imagine. The only question is, are you willing to suffer for it? Are you willing to walk through the fire to find out who you really are? Because at the end of the day, it's not about comfort. It's not about safety. It's about becoming undeniable. It's about building a mind so strong, so calloused, that nothing, not pain, not failure, not fear, can stop you. That's the gift Goggins gave the world. And now, it's your turn to carry it forward. So wherever you are, whatever you're facing, make the choice today. The choice to stop quitting. The choice to stop listening to the lies in your head. The choice to keep going, no matter how hard it gets. Because when you do, you'll discover the same unshakable truth. You can't hurt me. If you liked this summary, then subscribe to Ryan's Revival now to see more videos like this.